Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, and we made it. End of another long week. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay, just checking the thumbnail for this. Still doing an experiment with YouTube's generation of thumbnails based on stream activity, and just seeing how it's all doing its thing here and there. All right, so it looks like we're in good shape, so let's just get to work on what we got to talk about, because tonight the big discussion is Streamlabs, Stream Hatchet, Q1 2021. Numbers are out. Faster than I thought they would be. We recently talked about the preliminary numbers in the Stream Hatchet report, which are independent and do not feature hours streamed. I've taken a look at these numbers, and based on what I'm seeing, my suspicions about 2021 for content creators is spot on. Ladies and gentlemen, you can grind away on Twitch and be a streamer, but the streamer bubble will probably start bursting with the end of the pandemic. So we know that platforms have been doing all kinds of things to keep themselves going when everything was locked down, shut down, etc. And we know that Twitch has done very well for itself. We know YouTube has done very well for itself. If you look at the numbers in a vacuum in these reports that are for streaming and stuff, you may think that YouTube and Facebook don't have a chance, but the truth of the matter is YouTube and Facebook don't have to care about streaming as much as Twitch does. We talked about that last time with the discussion for the Stream Hatchet numbers that recently came out. The Stream Hatchet numbers pointed to a world where YouTube and Facebook, they're there, but the thing is, Twitch, like we said, going all the way back to my discussion about you're a Twitch affiliate, so what? Twitch is in a position where they have doubled down so much on live streaming. They're basically the Blockbuster Video of online media. So they're great at streaming, but they have next to nothing to offer anywhere else, and so they're going to be more biased towards streaming. There's Twitch streamers are going to eventually, if they fall for the marketing, view streaming as a replacement for making videos, which doesn't have to be the case on YouTube and Facebook. Matter of fact, if you come over to YouTube and you're going to just be a streamer, I think you're undercutting yourself, period. You know, you can do a radio style show like this, but don't come over to YouTube and just blow off most of the platform because you want an alternative to Twitch. You know, start thinking about an alternative to streaming in particular and how much Twitch's marketing has influenced you. We talk about this stuff so much, but it's a message that needs to get out there somehow, in some way. But here's the thing. Things went up when people were stuck home having to watch people stream. What happens when these people start going back to work? The economy contracted more with the pandemic than it did with the Great Recession. When that reverses and more people start getting involved in jobs and stuff, they're not spending as much time sitting around watching YouTube videos or Twitch streamers, then what? Well, what happens is we have to take a look at, especially when streamers aren't getting the numbers they used to. I think IRL in particular will plummet the most. But people are going to have to take a very close look at what they make and what they make out of what, streams and videos, and how to balance those two out. I don't think it's going to be optional. I think it's going to be mandatory. Especially IRL streaming. Let's think about IRL streaming for a second here. Why would IRL streaming do as well as it has during the pandemic? Because people can live vicariously through someone else who's out there streaming, doing things, visiting maybe tourist attractions that aren't getting any visitors, so they don't have to worry as much about stream snipers and things along those lines. So IRL streamers, of course, they've been having a ball with everything being shut down, but when everything opens back up, they're not special anymore. Oh, no. You don't have to watch streamer XYZ go to the zoo when nobody's going there because of the pandemic. Oh, no. You can just go to the zoo yourself. So there will be a chunk of the audience that goes away when things fire back up, particularly with IRL. And so what we're going to see is we're going to see these platforms do their thing, do what they're good at. And I think if you look at the numbers for Twitch versus YouTube versus Facebook, and you take a very close look at, and you think about what kind of platform these platforms are. Twitch is biased towards streaming. Twitch is focused almost entirely on streaming. It is about nothing but streaming when it comes to Twitch. However, this also means that numbers that are about streaming are always going to make Twitch look incredibly big, as this quarter's numbers have done, and as lots of quarters' numbers have done. But online media and content creation goes so much further than that. Just ask any YouTuber who doesn't feel the need to stream because their videos are good enough. You know, they want to make something. They want to craft something. They want to make an experience for their audience that's worth watching, and they can do that better with a good editor than they can winging it live. They're not caught up in the streamer culture. And don't forget, like we keep saying, the last couple of years of streaming growth has been when YouTube has been spinning its tires on things like demonetization, the advertising system, mid-rolls, things along those lines. And so when we look at these numbers, it's very tempting to think that YouTube is losing because as a streaming platform, let's be blunt, YouTube shrunk. But YouTube doesn't have to be a big streaming platform. And quite frankly, anybody who comes over to YouTube with a Twitch streamer mentality needs to check it at the door. Otherwise, they are undercutting themselves. Not if, but when or how they are. Because streaming is streaming, but it's not the only way to make video entertainment for people. So let's take a look at the report here. Let's get this on screen, and let's link this up, and let's make this nice and big. Link is over on my Twitter and in the description, twitter.com/MultimediaJay. The Streamlabs Stream Hatchet Quarterly. Let's fire this thing up here, and let's put it on screen. Link it up, and let's take a look at these numbers. Not as many pie charts this time. Not as many pie charts, so we're going to have to be a little more careful when we punch the numbers in. Twitch viewership reached an all-time high in Q1, growing 16.5% since the last quarter. Viewership on Twitch has doubled in 1 year. Question for content creators, what kind of viewership? Because not all growth is good, and based on what we see with Twitch and what they focus on, they have this persistent problem with not growing big enough to give everybody who wants to be a Twitch streamer enough of a potential audience. Does that continue? We shall find out. Facebook Gaming has closed the gap on YouTube Gaming to basically be similar sized platforms, but if you dig in the numbers I dig in, there's something else going on behind the scenes that we saw last quarter. Facebook Gaming viewership surpasses 1 billion hours in a quarter for the first time. Let's begin with let's put Excel on the screen, and let's look at where we started from. Let's look at what we had for Q4 of 2020. And actually, you can look at some of the other things as well. Let's put Excel on the screen and hook it up to the cruncher. Is it going to pick it up automatically? Yes, it will. Right. Keep the drinks handy. Although I'm changing drinks, I got to finish this one completely. So here's where we left off for Q4 2020, and it's very typical of what we see from Twitch with the issues with discoverability and the other stuff that people go on about in 50 bazillion YouTube videos out there. So you go here and you see here's the number. So you have hours watched versus hours streamed and the ratio. And Twitch routinely has problems with this ratio. There's always more people watching, but at the same time, there are always more people streaming. Now, what's the problem with that? It's what happened to Mixer. Mixer had too many streamers, but couldn't bring in enough an audience for those streamers to actually have an audience. And so even big names couldn't save Mixer. Just from the mathematics alone, we can see how this works out quarter over quarter. And YouTube, of course, had the best ratio. But YouTube in particular, because of its strength with videos, is the most unique in terms of how you handle streaming as an extension of what you're doing instead of the primary reason you're there. It's not a good idea to just be a streamer on YouTube. You're giving up the bread and butter of the platform and something that YouTube is really good at. And plus, if the usual blah blah thing that people say is make YouTube videos and bring your audience to Twitch streams, then you eliminate the middleman here because, all right, have people show up and like your videos and then catch you live some night. There are some YouTubers that are doing very well with this. They stream on YouTube and they also do stuff, they do videos as well. So the audiences have a nice little feedback loop, most importantly, without having to change platforms. One of the things with people don't like doing lots of extra stuff. They don't want to click lots of extra buttons just to get the same results. So you always got to look at something what's called a crossover when it comes to how many people are following you over to your Twitch or your Facebook streams or what have you. So here's where we were, and let's look at what we're going to add to here. Ubook is a combined combination of YouTube and Facebook. because of the lack of stuffy exclusivity clauses, unless they've added one recently and I don't know about it yet. But last quarter, we saw something interesting with Facebook. They were growing way too much on the streamer side versus the viewer side. And so, whereas previously in Q3, we saw ratios over 100 for YouTube and Facebook, last go-round, the ratio sunk under 100, and now Facebook became the second worst behind only Twitch. So you have problems with too many people streaming, not enough people watching on a far smaller platform in terms of millions of hours watched. This is something to keep an eye on with Facebook. And like we mentioned last time, the biggest thing holding back Facebook is the outdated e-shrine, as I used to call it, social media philosophy where everyone always has to use their real name. It's a privacy issue. If Facebook ever created something where you used your real name for local Facebook, and then when you were watching a Facebook streamer, you were doing more general Facebook. If Facebook ever made it, if Facebook ever fixed this real names problem, let's not forget, like we mentioned last time, the kind of monster that we would have on our hands in terms of a media platform. What can you do on Facebook? Text updates like Twitter, pictures like Instagram and Imager. Oh, by the way, albums for your pictures, like, you know, some of the sites that are out there. You can make videos like YouTube, and you can stream like Twitch with Facebook Gaming or Facebook Live, the non-gaming variant of that. So if Facebook ever fixed their privacy problem with the real names, they'd be a monster, because you would have a one-stop shop of a platform that creators could go to. Let's get back to where we were last time. So here's the trends, and here's what we're looking to add on to. So for audience growth, here's what we have so far. This is going back as far as the data goes back for all of this, and Facebook in particular is limited to starting in 2020 in terms of the data collection. So this is Twitch, this is hours watched, and we see Twitch benefit greatly as a strongly branded streaming platform from the shutdowns. YouTube has seen steady growth up to this point. Facebook kind of started going blah in Q4. And then there's the creator base growth. Hours streamed over time. Here's the people wanting to be streamers or, you know, doing other stuff like that. And so we see that YouTube's growth was very healthy because they grew without saturating the hell out of the streaming scene. And then Facebook is starting to inch in Twitch's direction. But the real loser here is Twitch. So many people want to be Twitch streamers. So many people are falling for the marketing. So many people are getting caught up in the hullabaloo about Twitch that there's just too many streamers. And when it comes to content creators, don't forget, folks, content creators are some of the worst people that you will ever have in your audience, because they're not going to watch as much because they're busy working on their own stuff. So you don't want an audience full of other streamers. You don't want an audience full of other YouTubers or other influencers or other bloggers or anything, because they're going to be driven to do their own stuff, which will fundamentally, everyone has limited free time, limit the time they spend watching you. So viewers versus creators is something that all these platforms, the health of these platforms is something, well, these platforms need to judge their own health by how many people are watching just to be viewers and how many people are watching to be content creators as well. Because that difference matters. Let's take a look here and see what else we have in the report. Twitch viewership reached an all-time high in Q1. Viewership on Twitch has doubled. So in terms of views, the platform has doubled in size, essentially. Facebook Gaming, this thing's like half empty already. I'm trying to finish it off. That's why it's going to splosh more than normal. Facebook Gaming is now basically arm wrestling with YouTube, but there's some problems with Facebook, as we know. But also, we have to take a look at the ratios as well when we get to that part of it. So the big thing is there's only one pie chart. That's for hours watched, not for hours streamed. However, hours streamed, let me see, there's one for Twitch. Then they have unique channels and concurrence. There's also hours streamed for YouTube. And there's other stuff as well. And for Facebook, there is hours streamed as well. The catch is that we're talking millions versus billions here. So we're going to have to keep our thousands right on the nose. Unique channels as well. We can look at that as well. Grand Theft Auto 5 is doing incredibly well because of GTA RP. It's outpacing League of Legends and other stuff. Check out the blog entry over at blog.streamlabs.com. facebook.com. Now let's take a look at the market share for hours watched. There's only one of these. There's only one of these for hours watched this time around. And we see that Twitch has gotten their revenge in terms of market share. They're eating up more of the pie. They're eating up more of the pie in terms of the total hours watched, going along with the growth of the platform as well. And of course, you have Facebook and YouTube kind of going after each other in this little category right here for this chunk of the pie as well. But Twitch, 72.3%. So they're doing something right in terms of getting people to watch. But as a content creator, we got to look at the audience ratio. How saturated is Twitch versus YouTube, especially when we know that Twitch only has live to really go off of. This is one of the key differences between Twitch affiliate and YouTube partner as monetization programs, is that there's no way to advance to your payout goals as a Twitch affiliate if you're not live. You need the sub revenue to do that, and it all has to come from your streams, because the support for after the fact video on Twitch is, well, it's there, but that's the extent of it. 6.34 billion hours watched. Yikes. That's a lot of people watching video games and sports events and things like that. And let's also not forget, this is an apples to apples comparison of the gaming part of this. I'm curious what these numbers would be, as usual, if they were more general numbers for the total amount of live streaming, because Facebook actually has Facebook Live for live events being streamed on Facebook that are not gaming related, and YouTube, of course, has YouTube streaming. And there are people out there that are actually doing kind of just chatting-ish style shows that might not get counted in these numbers for YouTube gaming because they're not game streaming. In a sense, yeah, game streaming is how Twitch became what it is as the gaming division of Justin TV once upon a time, but I think that streaming entertainment is something that has to be looked at all over the place, not just video games. So let's go to Excel and let's make sure we can get these numbers right here. So let's go to punch everything in and let's see what we have to play with here. Enter quarterly data here. Let's go start this up here. So we have Q1 of 2021, and we're going to start with Twitch. And let's make some of these here, and let's just see here. Take this down. Well, it's adding years to it, so copy paste to get our copy pasta on here. So I want Twitch, I want YouTube, I want Facebook, and then we'll combine everything together for uBook by combining Facebook and YouTube together to gauge Twitch's major competition from the other two platforms here. There is stuff like Trovo and DLive and stuff like that, but if you look at the numbers on hours watched and stuff, it's smaller. So maybe someday we'll be seeing some of these numbers show up. Why is YouTube saying no data? Okay, good. Gonna say, is the stream gonna crash again when I'm in the middle of doing something here? All right, let's go back to the report here and get the hours watched. And this has to be in millions, so we're gonna have to do this as thousands if it's in billions. Why the heck have I made this so big? So, all right, let's see here. Let's get this punched in for Twitch. Hours watched. This is too small. I got it on screen 2 here. You know, let's make it take up all of screen 2. I will be very bright for the foreseeable future. Let's go back to the pie chart because we can get that very easily. 6.34 billion. Let's see what that is. That's 6.34 billion on total hours watched. It's getting rounded. It's actually 6. So this number for Twitch hours watched went up to 6,337. Yeah, the pie chart is rounding. It rounded up to 6.34 billion. So we will use the line charts from the reports to get everything. All right, let's scroll down to YouTube hours watched. Got it on screen 2. 1373 down from. Wait a minute, that's billions. Hold on. Just make sure the numbers are, yeah, so that they're apples to apples and things along those lines. So why is, oh, that's why. It's a decimal and not a comma. That's why. I'm like, 1373 billion. Does that add up? No, it's a decimal instead of a comma. So it's 1.373, the equivalent of 1373 million. And it lines up with the previous number of 1924 without being too outlandish. We know that YouTube shrunk as a streaming platform this quarter. So at least in terms of game streaming and stuff like that. But I want to see what the ratio is. So let's see. Facebook hours watched. 1057 versus 901. That makes a bit more sense. In terms of, so 1.057 billion or 1057 million here. millions and billions. And so as a result of that equals YouTube plus Facebook. This plus that is 2430. Let's replace the formula with the actual 2430 for uBook. Now Twitch, this is why we have to go back to these charts right here, because there is no pie chart this time for hours streamed, and that's the key number that I'm keeping a look at, keeping an eye on here, because that's what we can do our ratios based off of. Twitch's total hours streamed last quarter was 230.5 for millions. This time 264.9. So growing again, as in there's viewers coming in with streamers supposedly. There's a lot of baked-in elitism on Twitch, though. Even the gifted sub system is rigged towards the biggest folks in terms of more ad-free viewing, because you have a bigger community that's doing more gifted subs. So let's see here. YouTube hours streamed. Let's go down to here. Hey, let's check chat while we're at it. Just see anything. All right. Nobody's saying hi or anything. I put it up, maximize it on the wrong screen. I want this on screen too. Thank you very much. So viewership on YouTube. Viewership on YouTube gaming decreased nearly 30% versus the last quarter. So total hours watched, total hours streamed. Total hours streamed on YouTube last quarter was 24.9. No, that's uBook. It was 10.4 last go round, down to 9.6 for the millions. And then Facebook, so you can already see Twitch versus last quarter is in the same boat with a 23 ratio. And YouTube, of course, shrunk a bit from 185 down to 143. Now, Facebook is the biggie here. We saw Facebook going in the wrong direction when it came to too many streamers, not enough people watching the streamers. Facebook gaming total hours streamed last go round. See, last time was 14.5. It has gone up to 19.5. So they're advertising, but the ratio is dropping. 62 down to 54. And so let's add these up. For the ratio for uBook, we have 9.6 plus 19.5 gives us 29.1. Replace the formula with the actual number for a ratio of 83.5. 83.50. All right, so I don't know if that ratio for that really works as well, but let's take a look at the quarterly data for display. That looks okay. Now let's actually make it look nice by giving it all different kinds of colors here. As of Q1 2021, we have this. And if we refresh it, this will update to the new set of numbers. So here is what it looks like with some pretty colors attached. Refresh everything, let Power Query crunch everything over, and also update the charts as well. There we go. 6337, the decimal point dropped at least. So here is what we have. We keep in mind, as a huge streaming platform, Twitch focuses almost entirely on streaming, whereas on YouTube and Facebook, it's something you can do in addition to something else. And I think that's the key difference here. But we see the advertising is paying off in terms of getting people to go to Facebook gaming, but it's not really doing too well in terms of viewers. And a lot of times I go over to Facebook and I see some of the biggest streamers only having about 5,000 concurrents or something. So this is the sort of thing that we saw with Mixer. Too many people were trying to become streamers, but not enough people were being brought in for the audience half of this. And so YouTube still remains in the best shape despite the decline. 143.021 for a ratio versus 54 from Facebook and 29 from Twitch. Now, does this mean that there should be a mass defection of streamers from Twitch over to YouTube? The answer is not really, because it is an apples and oranges thing at this point. YouTube does not need a huge streaming presence to do well because of how good they are with videos. Facebook is chasing after YouTube in terms of video technology and algorithms, but Facebook also has the overhead of what Facebook is used for, like updates and chatting with friends and relatives and things along those lines. And then, of course, on the uBook side of things. So here's the thing. What's the ratio here? 6,300 here versus 2,400. Twitch is still a bigger platform, but there is exponentially more people streaming on it, so the audience just isn't big enough. And so you have new streamers going over there, they can't grow. You have even Twitch gurus who are like, here's how to grow your stream, who've been having numbers that are flat or sinking. You have partners that lose concurrence to the point where Twitch had to have whatever that program was, try and boost some of them up. Some of these partners getting less than 75 concurrents after partnership because they didn't maintain the level of concurrence afterwards. Let's look at the comparisons for the rest of this. So Twitch versus YouTube. Twitch at 6337 versus 1373. It matches up. Twitch's watch versus YouTube's watched. 4.62 times the size. So Twitch is nearly 5 times bigger in terms of audience as a streaming platform, but 27 times bigger in terms of the number of content creators. In order to match YouTube's ratio of 143, Twitch would need 37,880 million watch hours. They would have to increase the size of the entire platform nearly 6 times to offer a 143 ratio. And by the way, without bringing in more people that wanted to be Twitch streamers. Twitch versus Ubook, the competition, 2.61 versus Twitch streamed versus YouTube streamed, 9.10. Twitch would have to do about 3.5 times as big to make up for the ratio that Facebook brings to the table, because Facebook kind of boat anchors everything. And here is the progression historically into Q1 2021. We see Mixer down here. Haha, we're done. Da-da-da-da-da. Practically a flatline platform. Although, darn it, Microsoft, why couldn't you make that work? Twitch, up, 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 and away! You want to be on the biggest streaming platform just like everybody else? Go become a Twitch streamer. But hey, there's a lot of other people that are thinking the exact same thing, because here is the creator base growth. Up, 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 and away! Up, 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 and away for Twitch, just flattening literally everything else down at the bottom. But this is the hours streamed. This is the, and I do things in hours because you're talking people with limited free time. They contribute watch hours here, as opposed, and stream hours, you can have the biggest streamers just hogging all the time. Never mind hogging all the audience as they try and, I don't know. So, and of course the watch stream ratios look kind of like this. So a bit of a dip for YouTube even, but still relatively the least saturated of the platforms, which is one of the reasons why I stream on YouTube. But I don't want to stream on YouTube as much as I've been doing. I want to mix up the streams with videos, because there are certain things that videos are better at than streams. And 2021, and particularly the end of the pandemic, is going to bring people to the place where they have to take a look at what's better for what. And it's not going completely in one direction, and it's not going completely in the other. It's not about being 100% a streamer or 100% a video person. How you mix things up is going to play a large role in how everybody emerges from this whole thing. But there you go. Right there. So even YouTube kind of tanked in this respect. But as we can see, I don't know if this whole combination of YouTube and Facebook even matters as much, but keep an eye on red, blue, and purple. And we see here the Twitch thing has been working out for years in terms of attracting people who want to be streamers. Probably take some screenshots of these and send them over to the Twitter and the Instagram for these little nerd charts that I keep an eye on. But that's where we are at. And so what we see from this kind of thing is quite simple. You got to think about what you're doing and don't try to fit yourself into some cookie cutter mold of streaming all the time or making videos all the time. What's better for what? And it goes back to that thing that I said last time. Streams is quantity. It's good for fast stuff. It's good for talking about stuff that's going on. It's good for hanging out with your fans and chit-chatting about stuff. It's about like winging it or something, like some late night chill lounge or something along those lines. Or in my case, with the game streams that I do, just showing progress in the MMOs or something like that. But there are certain things that streams are better at. There are certain things that videos are better at. Videos are better for the quality, the masterpieces, the studio albums, essentially, versus the live gigs that is streaming. And I think as we continue to progress past the end of the pandemic, there's going to be more people that have to take a good long look at what it is they've been doing. And even if it might have worked before, ask themselves, what were the conditions that led to that working for as long as it did before it seemed to not work as well anymore? And then they can answer those tough questions and pick how they're going to move forward from all of that. quick discussion. But hey, I want to keep things quick because I want to get back to making videos and working on the ESO Jubilee that's going on right now. But I've got all the quests done till about 2 a.m. my time, so I want to do some stuff around the house and get out of this chair, darn it. Way too much, playing video games and sitting here streaming when I could be moving forward with some of this gear I've had in the box for weeks now. We'll save that for another discussion. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.